Okay. 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 Okay, so here's the thing. I had a whole idea planned out for this video. Well, the two parts of the video anyway. Part one was going to be the retrospective on Marc Webb's career, which I did, and I quite enjoyed doing. Apart from The Only Living Boy in New York, that's a terrible film, and no one should ever watch that film ever. Part one was going to be this sort of look at Marc Webb's career, where you look at him as a director and you see what he's done, and we go, oh look, he actually has a style. And I ended part one on saying maybe there's a missing link, maybe there's something here that we're missing that will put the Amazing Spider-Man films into context. The problem is, there's nothing. I watched both of them, and you kind of see something there. You see the salt. There's been some salt of Marc Webb put in, but it's not a flavour. It's not Gifted. It's not 500 Days of Summer. It is Sony's Amazing Spider-Man, and everyone said that before. I didn't realise how bland they were until you watch them, because in my head I was thinking, oh, there's all these great set pieces and there's all these great bits. There's just nothing. There's nothing there. I had really fond memories of these two films. You've seen it in the video. I have them both on Blu-ray. I think Amazing Spider-Man 2 was one of the first Marvel films I saw in the cinema. Yeah, going back and looking at these films was really strange because I thought I would like them. I thought I'd come here and go, well, yeah, here's the missing key. It really isn't like that. You kind of sit there and wonder why these exist. There's nothing, and it's sort of bitter, and you question everything, and there's no answers. But yeah, I suppose I should address the points that I brought up in the previous things, the Marc Webbisms. So, The Amazing Spider-Man 1 is by far the worst of the two. And it's Marc Webb's worst film, I think. It really rubbed me the wrong way. With both films, they have what's called the filmmaker commentary. It's not unusual for DVDs or Blu-rays to have that. But the commentaries for this, you'd think, maybe the director, Marc Webb, and some of the screenwriters. But there's also the producers on there, and you think, okay, cool, that's, it's interesting to see. I think Lord of the Rings ones have the producers on. Lord of the Rings, the producers were instrumental because they filmed all three of them at the same time. It was a logistical nightmare, and it's interesting to hear that stuff. And these are interesting, but in a very different way, because the producer who, he's the one who gets all the flack for all these, Avi Arad, he takes up most of the time on that. He is the one talking for the majority of it. And, not in a way where it's, script stuff like he said, I wanted this change to script on this. He talks about that as well, but he talks about specific shots and moments much more like a director does. You realise how similar Avi Arad and Marc Webb's commentaries are. They're talking about moments and how moments play out and the pictures and sort of the iconography and what they wanted for the film. And they're not dissimilar, but it's like listening to two directors on a film. That's why I think the first one is so bland, because you can tell that someone wanted an idea, and I think Marc Webb has talked about some of the ideas that he came up with for the film, and they're much darker and much more weird. And he talks about how Peter Parker as an orphan is never explored. You have the death of Uncle Ben and you have Aunt May, but you never hear about his parents. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting idea. Someone whose parents left them, they've already had everything taken away from them. You can't take more away from them, or so he thinks. It's strange because when you hear the intention behind something, you go, oh, of course that's in there. Oh, of course I can see this idea. But if you need someone to point them out to you, then it's like, it's not worth it. It doesn't work. First one has this idea of figuring out puzzles and sort of equations and, you know, to do with the lizard and to do with certain things and curing disease. And, you know, there's some interesting stuff done. It's a movie. The first one, for all its flaws, is a movie. It's fairly self-contained. It starts with Peter Parker and ends with Spider-Man. For all its flaws, the first film is self-contained. That's where the second one goes off the rails. And I mean that with no pun intended. And if you've seen the film, you understand why that's a pun. There's so much stuff that happens in that second film. You have Electro, you have Rhino, and then you've got Green Goblin. You just sort of go between them all, like almost randomly. Like you have Rhino at the beginning and at the end, which kind of makes sense. And then at the end of the first act, at the break into the second, you have Electro's origin, and he's the villain. But then, in the third act, you have another villain origin. And you're watching it and you go, what is going on? You know, even someone who likes this film, kind of, you know, I like it more than the first. I don't understand what was going on. It didn't help that I had the commentaries on this. Something about the commentaries. Marc Webb does not appear in the Amazing Spider-Man commentary track. He does commentaries for some deleted scenes and what they were going to do, but I think it's very emblematic that he's not in that second film's commentary track. Marc Webb has said that he's not blameless in it. It's like, people say, oh, we want to see your cut of the film, we want to see your cut of the film. And I think he said before, he goes, I was there. I was making it with them. You know, the film that's on screen is my cut. So yeah, Marc Webb isn't this sort of like, you know, release the web cut. There's not a huge release the web cut campaign because that's his version of the film. You know, I don't want to hate these films. Like I don't go into films wanting to hate things. I want to go in looking for the positives. And that's why I did this. I wanted to go in, look at Marc Webb's films because I'd seen most of them before. I wanted to look at the TV shows, I wanted to look at a few other things, and I wanted to have fun. I wanted to like them. I wanted to find the gems in the Amazing Spider-Man. But they're not there, or if they're there, they've been flattened so much that they basically just blend in with the rest of the stone. These films aren't masterpieces. They're not hidden masterpieces. They're not, you know, I thought maybe I would go in and find some understanding that maybe I didn't before, but I didn't. I really didn't, and I'm really upset about that. I'm really annoyed that these films aren't better. Marc Webb's films are like, this person is special, and they have to be important because they're special. They're better than everyone else. I talked about 500 Days being the film that is completely different to all of his other films, and it that and Gifted are the only two of his works that I looked at that didn't really have a special person. The point of 500 Days is you're stupid for thinking that there is one special person. So in Gifted, it's not about the kid. It's, you know, it's a story surrounding the kid, but it's not, you know, she doesn't figure out the answer. It's Chris Evans' character. It's all these other people in the story. Everything else, like Limitless, the whole idea is that it's like you take a drug and you are the special person. The Amazing Spider-Man films, I mean, they're superhero films. And like the only living boy in New York, it's like he is the key to all of his family's problems. Like he figures everyone's problems out. Maybe there's not a story he's trying to tell, and you know, maybe that kind of thing. But I think he's trying to tell a story of being the one. You're the one who can solve people's problems. You're not the hero, you're the solution. You know, you're the therapist everyone else needs. Yeah, it's basically, I was leading up to this whole thing about, oh, it's the special person, and maybe through the superhero films he did, which is like the most special person, we can figure out what the story is he's trying to tell. There's contradicting ideas, like, can the special person fix everything? Well, in 500 Days, there is no special person. In Amazing Spider-Man, it's like, the special person loses everything, the more special he gets. But then, like, in The Only Living Boy in New York, the special person fixes everything. There's a happy ending, and you're like, okay. I think I went on a journey here, where I went to find something, and then realised there wasn't really anything to find. It's that meme about the scroll of truth, and it's like, finally my quest is complete. I have the scroll of truth. But I opened the scroll, and it just said, you've wasted your time, you've watched all these films and TV shows, and now what's happened is you know nothing about this guy, and you've listened to loads of podcast interviews with him, and you don't know anything, and you're like, okay. So now I've got to make a part 2 about this. The thing is, I like Webb. Like, he sounds like a really nice guy, and like he's, you know, technically good at making stuff. And I'm like, I would 100% see another film of his, but not out of the same reason that I go and see a Nolan film, or like see a Taylor Sheridan film, or I begrudgingly see a Quentin Tarantino film. Not because I'm like, oh, it's Webb's signature style, but, you know, I'm fairly sure that what he's gonna make is good. I think his next film, allegedly, he's been on it for a while, is he's doing a live-action Disney remake of Snow White. And, like, he's the perfect person to do that. Like, he really is the perfect person to do that. I can see, like, him doing that well. You know, not, like, astoundingly, but in a way that's kind of, you know, yeah, I don't have an ending for this. Like, I had this whole cinematic ending where, you know, I'd walk out into the garden and I would be like, oh no, I've wasted my time. But I don't even think it's worth that. The Amazing Spider-Man films are, you know, generic studio films. They got a new director in who sort of, you know, had a bit of experience, he had some technical know-how, and they sort of put him on some rails and went, do your thing. You know, don't stray outside these bounds. And so it was either you make this film, or you don't make the film. I think I've wasted a few months of my life trying to figure out how to end this. Yeah. Do check out r/amazing memes though. They're great. They let me post my first video on there, and they'll probably remove this one